CNN. Elephant poaching is out of control in this forest. Karl Ammann sees it as the beginning of a cycle that's already run its course across the border in the... When all the have been killed, he says, poaching get more wildlife for the bushmeat trade. Most of the buffalo are already gone. Next will be other large animals like and chimpanzees until are wiped out.
All he wants is a little mission, to hold on it. A hunter hunted the mother and ate it, and they began to the army commandant.
For centuries, the people who live here, have been hunting and eating chimpanzees. Till now, the Azande have traditionally huntably, their needs satisfied without any major impact on the chimpanzees. Forests are said to shelter one of Africa's populations of wild chimpanzees, possibly a very special kind of... In the forest, 3 hours on the nearest path. This is the story of the mystery apes.
Of a start of a river pretty soft here, and here with regular tracks.
These tracks are than those of any primate known to live here, and this is where it sleeps.
Here's a combination because there's a ground nest about 2, and then there's a of the same age group just next to it, but the tree nest.
From the time Karl first reported scientists have been puzzled. This forest, populated by chimpanzees, normally build sleeping nests high in the... There's evidence of large apes as gorillas that sleep on the ground, just like gorillas.
It's always down in riverbeds. It's always made with the same type of Afmomomum leaf, just like gorillas would make nests.
The mystery is that gorillas are not supposed to be found here, in a region hundreds of miles from the ranges of the eastern and western lowland gorillas. Reports and photographs from the colonial period are tantalizing bits of evidence that there were once gorillas here, but skeptics are not convinced.
How often does he see big ones? How often?
And then there are stories from local villagers. They tell of huge apes that sleep on the ground, exposed to danger, so powerful they have no fear of predators like leopards, hyenas, or lions.
Actually, one of the Azande names for ape is that the one which kills the lion. So that would fit a gorilla more closely than a chimp. I can't see a chimp killing a lion, so why that name?
This hunter says he's seen the giant apes, but they don't look like gorillas pictured in this book. Last year, Karl organized an expedition bringing leading scientists here to study the evidence, but their findings are still inconclusive.
Any body movement about 10 meters distance will immediately trigger the camera.
With remote-triggered cameras in areas where ground nests have been found, Karl is hoping to get a photograph of the big ape.
We come back a few months later, develop the film, and see what we got.
But so far, the cameras have only verified the diversity of wildlife in this forest. Antelopes, forest hogs, leopards, and what appear to be standard-sized chimpanzees. Analysis of DNA in hair and fecal samples indicates the ground-sleeping ape is a chimpanzee.
This is a chimp tooth, which is...
This skull found in the area has teeth as small as a chimpanzee's, but it also has what is called a sagittal crest at the top, unlike a chimpanzee, but just like a gorilla.
Chimps normally don't have.
One theory, the mystery ape could be a hybrid.
So if you had a male gorilla integrating himself with a bunch of chimps and breeding, which I'm told is theoretically possible, then that wouldn't show in the mitochondrial DNA, which is passed on from the mother. So all the tests we have done wouldn't tell us if we had a hybrid population of some kind.
More DNA testing will check the hybrid theory, but experts say it's a very far-fetched idea. What's more likely, they say, is that there's some kind of chimpanzee in this forest that grows extremely large, too large and heavy to sleep in tree nests like other chimps.
Made and very flat.
Karl says that would still make these animals unique for scientific research, at least a separate subspecies of chimpanzee that deserves special study.
I'm convinced there's something pretty interesting out there, and we will keep working on it. We'll get to the bottom of it.
But because this area is so remote and destabilized by civil war, scientists and conservationists are reluctant to come here. And in this forgotten forest, invasion by poachers could wipe out all the mystery apes, even before we know them. And yet, there are plans underway that could still save the wildlife here, as well as these people, the ultimate victims of this emerging crisis.
Coming up, rebel soldiers take the offensive against poachers and creating incentives to defend wildlife as Forgotten Forest continues.
Every breath you take at Tanjong Jara Resort is pure refreshment, a relaxation of the soul, a pure journey of revival. In Malay, we call this Suci Murni. In Malaysia, it is Tanjong Jara.
Tougher. Stronger. Q&A works hard behind the scenes to connect you with leaders and top newsmakers around the world. People who want to know what you think.
Democracy works.
People who want you to get involved.
Come and join us.
People who want to answer your questions. So get connected. Turn to Q&A only on CNN.
Open and honest about delivering the news.
There are great lessons to be learned by giving the public the access to know what's going on.
Heated debate about the issues.
The media is being squeezed by the state, and independent voices are being shut out.
Years of experience.
We are professional journalists.
And personal accounts on getting the story.
I've been behind the camera, and I've shed a tear.
The forum where seasoned journalists speak out about how they cover the news. International Correspondents, Saturday on CNN.
This isolated forest is part of a much larger area controlled by the MLC, just one of several rebel factions that have been fighting the Congolese government. But its control is limited, and poaching gangs have had little to fear from the MLC because rebel troops are said to engage in elephant poaching and to share in bushmeat profits. Law and order here is fragile, and incursions by heavily armed poachers could eventually bring anarchy and suffering to these people. It's already happened across the border.
The poachers have nothing to poach anymore in that region of southeastern CAR. Now villages are deserted everywhere because the villagers get robbed and raped by the ex-poachers who have nothing to poach.
The leader of the MLC, Jean-Pierre Bemba, has promised to stop elephant poaching in his territory.
Our policy in that one is to forbidden all those people to kill elephant and other animals like this. It's very difficult, but with our army, our security, our police, we are doing all our best to stop it.
Bemba has sacked some of his commanders who were implicated in poaching, and recently some of his troops captured this band of ex-government soldiers blamed for killing hundreds of elephants in the region and for terrorizing and looting villages on both sides of the border. Their commander, who was also captured, called himself Ibrahim bin Laden. In this village, where the poachers had forced people to work for them as porters carrying bushmeat, MLF officials declared elephant poachers would from now on be severely punished. But sources say this capture operation took place only because Karl and others provided these soldiers with transport, radios, and money. Karl says something more than that will be needed to keep poachers out of this area, a strong reason for local people to protect wildlife here. And there's a plan for that.
Our food and our goodies.
Missionary pilot Ron Pontier was born and raised in this region. He knows the Azande language and culture. And he's working with Karl on a new project, taking a generator and video equipment on a road show. In every village they reach, it's a celebration. But this entertainment has a serious purpose. Wildlife documentaries translated into the Azande language, showing elephants and chimpanzees in a way most of these people have never thought of them, as intelligent creatures with emotional attachments to family.
The local population might live with them, but they never see them in those contexts. They see a flash coming down the tree and then a gun goes off and then it's a piece of meat on a dinner plate. So they don't get to appreciate all what we know about chimps.
Skeptics say this won't change anything, but Karl believes it might make a difference.
I feel my view on wildlife was formed, like that of most Westerners, by what we see on TV. I mean, if we today feel we know a lot about chimps and we have an affinity for chimps, it is because we have seen what Jane Goodall has brought us close enough that we feel very strongly about these creatures.
And what these people also see is that wild animals can lose their fear of humans and could be valuable for something besides bushmeat.
They can see that people can get close to animals, they can see them, and that it would be possible to establish a tourism trade here that would bring some economic growth to their area.
There are signs the roadshow does have an impact. This man confesses he'll have to think again before he ever eats another chimpanzee. She says it's not right that poachers come here to kill our animals. They belong to us and we should protect them. But new attitudes alone are not enough. Wildlife conservation will not be possible here unless these people have tangible incentives to make it work. That's the purpose of a second new project, a plan to restore the coffee market for producers like this man, who says buyers now pay almost nothing for coffee, so there's no motivation to grow it. This dealer says he pays for coffee with salt and carries coffee bags on bicycles for hundreds of kilometers to the Sudanese border, where he too is paid almost nothing. It's no wonder that bushmeat has replaced coffee as the main export here.
So the logical question was, if you could sell your coffee again, would you stop hunting elephants?
With support from local chiefs and MLC officials, a foundation in the Netherlands, and a Greek trader with the only functioning truck in the area, the coffee project will pay double the market price for all coffee produced here, selling it under a special elephant-friendly brand. In exchange, all villagers will stop hunting endangered species like elephants and chimpanzees, and will cooperate to prevent incursions by poachers from outside. If any local villagers are implicated in poaching activities, coffee buying would be suspended. Chiefs say only a small percentage of people now benefit from elephant poaching, but many would benefit from coffee sales.
This large percentage would put serious pressure on the small percentage, and that we would count on the majority of the people to see things our way, and as such we would have pretty good leverage.
But it's uncertain whether any of these plans will have a real impact on what is happening here. Poverty, war, corruption, and pressure from armed poaching gangs might be an overwhelming combination of forces, And it may already be too late to change what lies ahead for elephants and other wildlife, and eventually for these people. What lies ahead for this part of the Congo, for the people, the wildlife, and the forest around them, depends on the outcome of the civil war and the restoration of political stability and a functioning economy. Until then, a few dedicated conservationists will try to make sure the natural wonders of the forgotten forest are not lost forever. I'm Gary Stryker. Thanks for watching.
I'm going to say goodnight.
You've got a spelling test.
I asked you this afternoon if you'd finished your homework.